Welcome to Destination Northwest Europe. This is your takeoff for Core 1. We are going on a journey together for the next 2 hours, and we're so very proud to have over 1,000 registered participants today. And we also thank you for the over 150 questions received. This is going to be so useful during this event, and we want to keep it interactive. We have a dedicated team with us today to answer all of your questions on Slido. This is Inge, Luca, and Rebecca. Thank you so much for being with us in the back office. And I have with me here Peter. He's my sidekick for today. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Perrine. Thank you very much. So, as Perrine mentioned, Slido is the tool that we will be using today to make this event interactive. You can access it in 3 different ways. Either on the same page right now where you're looking on the side tab, where you're watching the live broadcast, or you can go on your phone and scan the QR code, or you can even go on slido.com and enter the event code destination NWE. Be sure to send us your questions. Most importantly, though, if you see a question similar to yours, please click the like button, as we will be making sure to respond to the questions that are shared by the largest number of participants. Some of you may already have seen it when you opened the event earlier. You can participate either directly on the main event platform here that you'll be seeing on the screen, or go to where you have Slido opened elsewhere. If you're answering the questions now, please note that there are 4, so please scroll down as you go. We will give you a few moments to go through the questions. It looks like, in terms of where people are coming from today, it looks like a lot of you are coming from government and public organizations at around 43%, but it's pretty mixed too, between industry, business, and research and academia as well. In terms of where people are coming from, it looks like we have quite a large number of participants from Belgium and the Netherlands today, very well represented, Germany, France as well, and Ireland. So thank you very much. And we also are seeing some participants from outside of the Northwest Europe region. So thank you very much to everybody participating today. In terms of if people have applied for Northwest Europe already before in the past, it looks like a majority of participants today have not. So we welcome you, and we hope that this event will be very helpful for you to learn more about our program. And it looks like, as well, a majority of people already have a project idea in mind, which is really great and really exciting for us to hear.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. After the video, we will see what the Northwest Europe program is about with Anne and Mathieu. All right, so this is the first stop of our trip. What is the Interreg Northwest Europe program about? And I am here today with Mathieu and Anne. Welcome. But first, we want to ask our audience a question, Peter, right? What is Northwest Europe to you?
We do indeed want to ask this question, so you'll see it again right on your screen. If you can just enter one word that comes to mind when you think about Northwest Europe. We have quite a few votes coming in. It doesn't look like anyone has the exact same idea just about yet. Looks like a lot of people are thinking about cooperation. Looks like a lot of people are thinking about collaboration, so some similar ideas. Cohesion, transnationality, sustainability, new and inspiring. I really like that one as well. So quite a few different ideas that are coming in that you can all see on your screen. Cooperation seeming to be the biggest, which is quite encouraging.
All right, thank you, Peter. This is a really nice introduction to our strategic overview. So again, I am with Anne today. Anne, you are the director of the Europe Department for the Région Hauts-de-France, which is the managing authority of the Northwest Europe program. And Mathieu, you are the program director for Northwest Europe. Welcome again. And can you tell us how the Northwest Europe program fit within cohesion policy, please?
Yes, I think the Northwest Europe program promotes cohesion by fighting against disparities between different European regions, beyond the borders. And I think we have there real opportunity together between so many different actors, so many different countries, to come together to develop projects and address some of the key challenges we have in this area. So I think you will ask, what are these key challenges of the NWE Europe program? I think we are in an area with a really dense population, urbanized, 180 million people living here, 30% of the European population, which is something important. Also, it's a really dynamic area. A lot of innovation is coming from this place, wealthy too, and 46% of the European GDP comes from this area. But this means also there's a lot of development, high development, but also a lot of energy consuming. And especially in the time we're living in, it's really important to tackle these issues too. A lot of CO2 emission too. And perhaps something which a lot of people are aware of, in our area, there are also a lot of disparities between rural areas and urban ones, and also in the cities themselves. There's the access to public sectors, there's also the question of the employment, for example. So all these key elements, we have to face them together to accompany our territories and in their big diversity to have these common issues, to work on them, to develop our future, I would say.
Thank you, Anne, for this framework. So you've mentioned the challenges, our aim. So how does that translate concretely? Mathieu, what can you tell us about Northwest Europe today?
Well, Perrine, it is, I hope it doesn't show too much, but it's a very busy time for us, but also thriving time. Busy because the 2014-2020 programme is still undergoing at the moment, with a significant number of our 102 projects still undergoing. It's a busy time because in parallel of this programme still undergoing, we have been designing the new programme, 2021-2027, and have been launching it. This new programme is the result of 2 years of negotiation and hard work by our member states, our managing authority, our joint secretariat, our contact points, in good cooperation with the European Commission. And I want to take this opportunity today to thank them all. It's a thriving time because despite of the departure of the United Kingdom, we will continue to be the Interreg transnational programme with the highest budget, 310 million euros, which will help us continue to do good in Northwest Europe. It's a thriving time because we will continue to cover a large and exciting geography with 7 of the most dynamic countries in the EU. It's a growing geography as well, with new regions from Germany and from the Netherlands joining the programme. It's a thriving time because the political priorities we will be funding match very carefully the needs of our geography. It's a thriving time because we do our best to listen to the needs of our stakeholders, and we have introduced a lot of simplification in the new programme in order to help make the life of the applicants easier. So to conclude, I hope that everyone watching today will find in our programme a good opportunity to launch successful and meaningful projects.
Yes, thank you, Mathieu. That's what we hoped for indeed. So that was a nice state of play. Peter, what are the reactions from the audience?
Yeah, so we're getting quite a few reactions that are coming in. The number one question first being, as an applicant, why should I go for Northwest Europe over another Interreg program?
All right, thank you, Peter. Anne, and then Mathieu, maybe why choose Northwest Europe?
But I think what you heard about the key challenges, the identity or the specificity of this program, if you find yourself saying, okay, my project will really could be integrated in this framework, then I think you should go.
Yes, indeed, it's all about territorial needs. So if your ideas, if your projects fit the territorial needs of Interreg Northwest Europe, then you should apply. I mean, there are different political priorities, different SOs that have been chosen. Anne mentioned the challenges of our territory. At the moment, a lot of Interreg programs have a green core to them, but if you look at our priorities at Northwest Europe, you will see that we also have a big priority of a more social nature, for instance. So it's very diverse. So as long as you stick to the needs of the territorial geography of our program, you can't go wrong.
Right. Thank you very much, Anne and Mathieu. After the video, we'll go for our second stop with Sarine and Alexandre. What can the NWE program do for you? All right, and we are back after the strategic overview that was just provided. You want to know how this translates to you, and we are now going to talk about what can the NWE program do for you. I am with Alexandre. Hello, Alexandre. So you are Contact Points and Communication Unit Coordinator at the Joint Secretariat, and Sarine, who is also working at the Joint Secretariat as Program Officer.
Hi, Perrine.
Welcome to the both of you. So let's dive into the content. Alexandre, what themes is the NWE program covering?
Well, to address this question, I'll start by giving the overall thematic scope of our program, which is to address green, smart, and just transition with the aim to support the balanced development and the resilience of the Northwest Europe territory. So in line with this overall objective, the member states have defined 5 different priorities, each of them referring to an EU policy objective, 3 of them focusing on the green agenda, so climate, environment, energy transition, circular economy, and then 2 of them focusing on innovation and inclusion, so innovation and resilience, priority 4, and inclusive society, priority 5. So our experienced applicants will immediately notice that the thematic scope of our program is slightly wider than in the previous program. New topics are indeed covered, such as biodiversity or climate adaptation in priority 1, or social inclusion in priority 5. And then, in addition to that, the new program is also addressing some topics, some similar topics, with a different angles, with a different approach. That's the case for priority 4 in particular, which addresses innovation, or to a certain extent priority 2, which we will detail in a little bit further. These 5 priorities, each of one include 1 or more specific objectives, and each one of these specific objectives will have to be selected by projects when they apply. And finally, I also want to mention, thematic-wise, that we have some horizontal principles that come across all the priorities and that all projects will have to address. These are gender equality, non-discrimination, and sustainable development.
Great. Thank you very much for the overview, Alexandre. Now, Sarine and Alexandre, you are both going to go into the detail of the priorities. Sarine, over to you for priority 1, 2, and 3.
Thanks, Perrine. All right. So the first priority is on climate and environment, and here we have 2 specific objectives. So the first specific objective is on climate change adaptation, disaster risk prevention, and resilience, considering ecosystem-based approaches. So large territories within the NWE program area are affected by risks of natural disasters, and water management challenges are there. And all of these relate to climate change. So here projects can, for example, implement approaches to address natural risk management, disaster response, sustainable water management approaches, and reduce or prevent severe negative effects of weather phenomena on NWE territories. Within the same priority, there's also a second specific objective, and this one focuses more on nature, biodiversity, green infrastructure, including in urban areas, and reducing all forms of pollution. So the Northwest Europe area is again characterized by intense land use and fragmented natural ecosystems. This means that ensuring the interconnectivity of protected areas and also the restoration of natural areas is very important. Here there are a lot of opportunities for projects to come to our program and to implement approaches on green and blue infrastructure. projects addressing pollution caused by different sectors, such as, for example, agriculture, industry, or wastewater treatment plants. So all kinds of biodiversity protection, restoration projects are welcome to come to the program. The second priority is one that was thematically present in the previous program as well, and it still remains highly relevant for this program. So it's on the energy transition of NWE territories. Here specifically, there are two aspects to consider. So the Northwest Europe region remains one of the most highest energy-consuming regions in the EU. That means there is a lot of potential to improve the renewable energy mix of the region in terms of production and consumption. At the same time, Northwest Europe is also key to enable the EU to reach its energy efficiency targets by 2030. We have a big role to play there. So various fields show a lot of potential in terms of how to address this challenge. So within this priority, we have the first objective, which focuses on energy efficiency and with the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Here, projects can, for example, address energy efficiency in different sectors, such as dwellings, transport. They can work on smart energy systems to be deployed within the NWE region and tackle also energy poverty, which is a big issue for the region. The second specific objective within this priority focuses more on renewable energy, and here projects can work to address barriers to improve the renewable energy mix in terms of production and consumption within the NWE. All right, so then moving on to the third priority, which is on the circular economy. This was also a topic that was already covered under the previous program, and again, it remains highly relevant for this one, for the next 7 years. The NWE region is considered relatively advanced in terms of material efficiency, with regions having relatively low material consumption per capita, despite their high economic performance. However, there are improvements to be made, for sure, and we need to enable the entire NWE region to transition towards a more circular economy and a resource-efficient economy. So here the program considers that there's this need to transition from a linear economy to a circular economy, and this requires joint efforts of different stakeholders across the region, across sectors, across regions, with a variety of approaches. So here we are calling for projects to come to the program to address process, product, component, or material efficiency in value chains. They can also work on business models, to work towards more resource efficiency. They can address waste management practices. There's also the need to raise awareness and capacity levels of stakeholders in this specific thematic area in order to enable the transition of society as a whole.
All right, Alexandre, for priority 4 and 5, right?
Yep, so moving on to priority 4. First, a word of caution maybe on this priority, because it is tackling innovation, but it is not similar to the innovation priority that we used to have in the previous program. And so this is really a word of caution for the experienced applicants in particular that were numerous applying in the innovation priority in the previous program. Because this one here, the overall aim of this priority is above all to improve regional territorial resilience, and to do this by increasing innovation capacities of public and private players throughout Northwest Europe. Because Northwest Europe indeed is a leader in many sectors. It's one of the wealthiest regions, as was said previously. However, there's still strong disparities in the territories in innovation capacities, disparities in the use of technologies, and also disparities in the deployment of digitalization. So to that end, the program aims to support projects that will, for example, facilitate the uptake of R&D results and innovative solutions, that strengthen smart specialization strategies, that adapt existing innovative solutions and services, or that reinforce value chains and accompany innovation players to improve their processes, their governance, and other aspects. Then moving on to priority 5. So this one is one of the new ones, inclusive society, which is addressing social innovation and inclusiveness in a much more direct way than was the case in the previous program. We're again tackling disparities in this priority in 4 main areas: employment, health, and 2 areas which are really new: culture and tourism. So starting with the first specific objective, which is addressing employment here, There is a challenge in Northwest Europe, which is not only typical to Northwest Europe, but quite relevant here, is that there are some labor market disparities within the different territories, especially between the urban and the rural, in lower income areas, or in some industrialized regions. And there's another challenge which is important, is to address the mismatch between the labor market needs and the provision of public services. So within this SO, the program will aim to support some projects that enhance the effectiveness and inclusiveness of labor markets, that will promote quality employment, and also that will empower and increase the employability of vulnerable groups or people that are on the verge of facing fragility. We're thinking about NEETs, people not in education or training, people that are with disabilities, refugees, or people living in very deprived areas. Moving on to the second specific objective, which addresses health. In this one, the program seeks to address two challenges related to the territorial imbalances, once again. First of all, to improve the access to healthcare services, and second of all, to address the growth in aging population, especially in the urban areas of Northwest Europe. So here, we're looking for projects which will improve this accessibility of health, in particular for rural areas, that will develop innovative care services, smart approaches, and digital solutions to facilitate this access, and that will also strengthen territorial networks of health care and well-being to develop solutions tailor-made to territories' needs. Finally, the third specific objective in this priority, here we're tackling disparities not in exactly a similar way. The idea is to support culture and tourism, which have been strongly affected by the COVID crisis, as a way to improve economic development, as a way to improve social inclusion and social innovation throughout the NWE territories, and in particular, once again, the remote and most deprived areas of the area. So here, we're going to be looking for a project that sees the opportunity to make these sectors, culture and tourism, more sustainable, that will support their digitalization, and that will finally enhance the access to tourism and culture of the vulnerable population I was mentioning previously.
All right, so you've covered the topics that our program offers. They're very numerous. We've seen that. Alexandre, what is the expected impact of projects then?
So, well, what's the impact of projects? I have to start by describing what type of projects we're actually expecting. So obviously, as a transnational cooperation program, the main aspect that we're going to be looking for is projects that have the capacity to tackle common challenges through cooperation. And the challenges must be clearly identified as specifically relevant for the Northwest Europe area. So that's the first aspect. Then, which was already existing in the previous program. Then on other aspects, there's a slight shift in the type of projects we're looking for. The main shift is that we are having a stronger focus on dissemination, uptake, and rollout of the approaches, tools, or solutions that projects will be developing. This means that we're going to be looking for projects which not only develop, test, and adapt their approaches, but also implement them in the framework of the project in various contexts to ensure that this dissemination, the uptake, and the rollout actually happens. Another important aspect concerning type of project is that projects need to have an added value to the existing situation. This is something that we're going to be asking starting in the Step 1 application form. And they can either do that through the development of something which is new, of course, but also by building on existing approaches to be implemented in, for instance, new geographical areas, new economic sectors, or address them towards new type of stakeholders. And finally, linked to everything I said previously, it also means that the type of projects we're looking for is typically not fundamental or applied research that will not be relevant for a program.
Right, something concrete. Sarine, what are projects asked to deliver then?
Actually, before we go into that, we keep getting some big questions from the audience coming in, especially one really related to UK partners. So one thing that a lot of people have been asking right now is, in this new program, will UK partners be eligible or not?
All right, we want to get this question out of the way, maybe. Sarine or Alexandre?
Sure. We're going to be addressing a little bit later the question about partnerships in general, but we can answer this one immediately. UK partners, unfortunately, cannot participate in projects in the upcoming program. They can participate as associated organizations and I'll describe a little bit later what that really means. But no, unfortunately, they cannot join a partnership in this program.
All right, I think this is clear. So now, Sarine, what are projects asked to deliver?
All right. So building on what Alexandre just presented in terms of what the focus of a project should be, there's a specific, in order to achieve a meaningful impact on territories and on its citizens, and in line with the priorities that we presented and the specific objectives and the themes, projects are expected to design and implement a combination of activities in their work plans. So these activities are meant to then directly contribute to the production of outputs and results. This is something that we always ask from our projects when they're coming to us for funding. So the NWE program foresees three main types of project activities in this new program. And we are asking projects to try to incorporate at least two of them in a given project. So the three main types are listed on the slide. And they refer to the elaboration and implementation of joint strategies and/or action plans. The second type of activity is the joint implementation of pilot actions, tools, and/or solutions. And the third one is activities that focus on capacity building and awareness raising, and this includes trainings. So for all these type of project activities, the NWE program reimburses 60% of a maximum of 60% of total eligible costs. This is known as the ERDF funding. When you're building your application, you're going to see these terms popping up. And then beneficiaries are expected to contribute the remaining, which is usually 40%, and this is known as a partner contribution or also known as match funding. So when drafting an application, the total eligible costs need to be presented to the program, and then these calculations are taken into account later on. And you should also consider that all activities can be designed and budgeted for using all cost categories. And by that, I mean you can plan staff costs, external expertise and services, travel and accommodation, equipment, infrastructure and works for all these type of activities.
And I'm sorry, this question, again, just keeps getting asked by a lot of people, a lot of participants. So we're talking a lot about developing these applications, but how about developing the consortiums? The question that keeps popping up is, where can I join an existing consortium in order to join an existing project idea?
All right, I think Alexandre and Vinicius are going to answer more in detail later, but maybe Alexandre, just a few words, a hint for our participants to stay until the end and know more.
It's indeed a question that we often get, and there's many possibilities that we offer, some support that we offer for lead partners in particular to find and to identify relevant partners. There's in particular the NWE online community platform that we have just launched, and that we will describe in detail just a little bit later. So if you wait a few more minutes, we'll get there.
Yep. All right. I'll jump straight back into the presentation. And basically, I presented the type of activities that there were three of them. And to build on that, activities basically should lead to strategies and action plans as an output, which are then taken up by organizations. Then the pilot actions that lead to solutions, then they are taken up or upscaled by organizations. And finally, joint training schemes that then lead to, oops, sorry, it didn't work. Joint training schemes that then lead to participants having participated in the trainings. So overall, all activities contribute to building institutional capacity of organizations. And please note how we emphasize on the need for outputs to be taken up or upscaled. These are the terms that pop up in the outputs and results. So it's very, very important because we want to see results on the ground with outputs that are relevant and used by organizations in the NWE territory.
Exactly. So we've seen that our audience is already very active on Slido. Peter, what are the reactions to Sarine and Alexandre's presentation, please?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, so another big question that I keep seeing popping up, and Sarine, you were just speaking about outputs and activities and things like that. Are there any main differences that you would highlight with the former Northwest Europe program as well? What are the main differences with the former Northwest Europe program?
All right. What are the differences with the 2014-2020 period, as we may have a lot of participants which already applied or even run a project? What can you tell them? Sarine?
Sure. The main difference is that for this current program, all outputs and results are the same for all priorities and specific objectives. If you remember, in the old program, we had specific outputs and results indicators that we were asking projects to contribute towards under priority 1, 2, or 3. So here, it has been, in a way, simplified because it's much clearer. All of our projects are supposed to do the same, are supposed to contribute to the same outputs and to the same results. Furthermore, here we are talking about tangible things. We are not that in the previous program we were not, but they were counted differently. While there we were asking for the innovation capacity to have increased by the number of organizations that were supported, here we're really talking about strategies, action plans, pilot actions, solutions. We want to see real things that come out of projects that has an impact on the ground and contribute to building institutional capacity of organizations in the NWE territory.
Right. Anything else, Alexandre? Yeah.
Yeah, I could add, I mean, that's on the type of project, type of activity, and then on the thematic aspect, there are some new themes. I think we pointed them out. Priority 1 is almost fully new with climate and environment. Biodiversity is something that we weren't addressing in the previous program. Climate adaptation we weren't addressing either. And again, on priority 5, culture and tourism, these are really brand new topics which our program is addressing, something radically new. Perhaps the fact that we have 1,000 participants today is linked to these new topics that we're addressing and is enlarging our attractiveness.
Absolutely, a lot of opportunities. Peter, anything else?
Yeah, there's one that is just popping up that I want to address as well now that we're talking about the priorities and a little bit more the content. It's about the need to focus on policy. So the question that's been asked is, do the projects presented need to focus on policy? Or can they also help develop collaborative projects which have activities that address the listed challenges of Northwest Europe, but that don't involve policy?
All right, that's quite a long question. So, do projects need to focus on policy, or can they also develop collaborative projects which have activities to address the challenges that were mentioned earlier by Anne and Mathieu? Who wants to take it? Sarine, go ahead.
Yeah. So, good question. Indeed, we are outlining 3 main types of activities that we envision projects to undertake, but this is not limited. This list is not limited. The projects are not limited to this list. They can also undertake additional activities. If you look at the type of activities that we have presented, strategies and action plans geared towards more the policy-making side, while pilot actions that lead to tools, solution, practical outcomes are geared towards, are not necessarily policy-oriented things, but perhaps something a little bit more practical. So the point is the program is pretty flexible in this regard, but we have outlined the main 3 types of activities we expect projects to contribute. And as I said, all projects need to be able to contribute to at least 2 of those at a given project. So they can enlarge their scope as long as it fits with the objective outputs and results. And they can do additional things in addition to what we presented as long as they also have a focus on these.
All right, so flexibility within a given framework. Peter.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to a bit more of a technical question this time that's coming up from the audience as well, and this relates to match funding this time. So the question asked is, can the 40% of match funding required come from in-kind? So, for example, salaries of participating personnel or previously bought equipment, etc.
Quite a technical question about finances. Can the 40% be in-kind? Who wants to take that?
I can take it. So first of all, this is more of a question relevant for the Step 2 application phase, not the Step 1. But in any case, we do not have in-kind contribution in the current program. In-kind contribution was not what is exactly described in this slide. In-kind contribution was something else, and we're not going to go into it because it's no longer relevant for the new program. But the 40% match funding needs to be provided from the side of the beneficiary, and this could come from their own funds, or they could perhaps go out and look for additional 20% funding from another source, maybe national, regional, or local initiatives that could top up the 60% ERDF that they will be getting in order to cover their 40%. But they can never exceed the 100% total eligible cost value, let's say.
All right, so a lot of finance questions are for step 2. We are at step 1 now, but we're also going to have an FAQ on our website, so you can have some answers to these questions already. Peter, is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Yeah, let's just go for one last question, I think, for this part about participants from other countries. So the question that's been asked is, are collaborators from other countries than the ones that are part of this call allowed? So I guess from outside the program area.
All right, yes. What about countries from outside Northwest Europe? And we'll give more information in a little while, but maybe Alexandre, you want to say a few words already?
Yeah, sure. It is possible to have partners from countries which are outside the NWE area. I'll cover that in just a little moment also. But yes, it is possible. There is a minimum that we need is to have at least 3 partners from 3 NWE countries, and 2 of them need to be from the Northwest Europe area. But then, yeah, it is totally possible. It needs to be justified. The consortium has to explain why it was needed to get a partner from outside the area, why that partner had competences that could not be found in the Northwest Europe area.
All right, thank you very much, Sarine and Alexandre. We'll be with you back in a few minutes. So you've heard from the program experts, but now you may want to hear the perspective of someone who has been involved with us and make you want to apply. And for this, we have with us Valérie. Valérie, welcome.
Hi, Perrine. Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Valérie, you are the lead partner of the iCare for Farms project, which objective is to increase renewable energy capacity in farms. Valérie, I have a simple question for you, which all participants want the answer to. What are the benefits of being involved with Interreg Northwest Europe?
Thank you, Perrine. So we have been involved for more than 10 years already in a European project, and mainly in Northwest Europe project. And this has given us lots of support, both for us, for Laval Mayenne Technopole, and also for our clients' companies. Because we are a French non-profit organization and located in the west part of France, and as such, we are EU Business Innovation Center certified by EBN, the European Business and Innovation Network. And so on a daily basis, we really support new entrepreneurs and SMEs on our territory. And so really the first project we have been doing under Northwest Europe, we're falling under the innovation priority. And so as I was saying already, this has been a real added value for LMT, because this has helped us to really support our internal development and also the development of services we offer on the territory and to our clients. For instance, if we go 10 years backwards, I would say we had to really better structure ourselves, both internally and financially, in order to be able to adapt at the management and reporting requirements of EU project and especially Interreg. So that was the first thing. And secondly, working with other EU organizations, we have been able then not only to benchmark the type of actions we are offering on our territory, but also we have been able to test and to develop and test new innovative support for our client companies and for our ecosystems. For instance, we have had projects in the fields of open innovation and internationalization. And this was really like working with competences, visions, experiences, which were far beyond what we would have had on a single region or territory. And then we have been able to pilot testing new tools and services. And also being part of several Interreg projects, this has been a valuable way also for us to build our international network of trusted partners. And this has also benefited to our territory and to strengthened the international development of our companies. So this was really valuable for exchange of expertise, learning, and best practices. And so what I can say is that over the years, really, we gained in visibility, and which means that now we have many European partners all around Europe, And so they would also come to us to ask us for new projects, and they would also contact us, and we would do the same for any specific needs we would have on our territory. So what I would like to say is that it is not only us being connected, with many partners now in Europe, but really also our ecosystems. And finally, thanks to the Interreg projects, we have been able to reach new targets. And for instance, we have working with cultural and creative industries, and we have also addressed the area of agriculture, especially through this I Care for Farms project. And this was really new for us because we had not been working with this type of fields before.
All right, so a lot of advantages to be involved with Interreg Northwest Europe. Thank you for highlighting them. Now, Valérie, you said you've been involved in many projects before, so you have applied with us. Do you have any tips for participants who may want to apply this time? What can you share with them?
So first of all, this is, our experience, but really I would like to say, before maybe applying as lead partner for a project, you must get an experience in Northwest Europe or other program, because it is of great importance really to really well understand what is expected, both in terms, of a project proposal, but also everything dealing with management and reporting. And so I'm really glad we had experiences before as a partner in European project, because what I can say is that lots of project partners will rely on you as lead partner. And also, as you can imagine, this is also a heavy workload, both when you're preparing your proposal and also during the project life. So if you have had experience already as project partner, then I think it's really helpful. And what I wanted to highlight also, it has been said already previously, but it's really important for me to clearly state why your project is relevant to the Northwest Europe region and what is really the pain that your project will be answering. And this needs also to be well quantified. And this is for me, it's of main importance really to build your proposal, to build your partnership, and to be able then to have an impact. And for instance, in our project, we started from the point that there was a very high level of CO2 emissions in the agricultural sector in Northwest Europe, and with a low uptake of solar thermal energy. And this is what we wanted to change, and to reduce the greenhouse gas effect, and to have a better market uptake of solar thermal energies.
All right, thank you, Valérie. This is really relevant for our audience, and may I highlight that we'll also need to read the program manual. I think Valérie has made that clear, that there's a lot of expectations that are explained in there. Peter, do we have a question for Valérie from the participants?
Indeed we do. There's one participant that's asking, actually several, that are wondering if Valérie could go into a little bit more detail about how her organization was able to find the 40% match funding. Just an experience and maybe some suggestions on where to look.
Valérie, what can you tell us about where to get the match funding?
So really the match funding for us, we got it on our organization funds. That was maybe rather easily on our side, because all the projects we have been doing are really much online with the strategy of our organization, and this is really important. And so, because every time we developed new services, as I said, and so it was quite easy to find the match funding, for the project we were carrying out.
All right, I think we have time for another question. So go ahead, Peter.
Yes, so we were going into detail before, and Valérie was speaking a lot about relevant projects and making sure that a project is relevant. There's one about financing laboratory research. Is it possible in this program, is it relevant to be financing laboratory research?
All right, in this program, I don't know, maybe Sarine and Alexandre want to say something about this. And then we can have Valérie for a final word.
Yeah, sure. Well, yes, laboratory research, as I said previously, we're really focusing in this program on rollout, disseminating, implementation. So clearly in this program, fundamental research and even applied research do not apply.
All right, Valérie, do you have some last words for us? Anything else you want to share, maybe on this same topic?
Maybe the last word I wanted to say is that it's really important also to talk with your national contact points and regional contact points if you have any, and also with JS if you have the opportunity to do so during webinars, because this is important also for you to get challenged, on your project objectives, impact and consortium, and etc. And this is very valuable for you to be able to be sure that your project is really within the scope and the expectation of the program.
All right, thank you so much, Valérie, for being with us today and for all the useful tips. So we've had the testimony of our partner, and now our third stop is who can apply? And I think we've had a lot of questions about this already. So back with Sarine and Alexandre. And my first question is to you, Sarine. Which organization can be partners in projects?
All right, so I'll talk about the types of organizations that we are seeking to be part of projects. So involving a variety of partner types enhances the potential impact of projects, both on the territories and on citizens. Therefore, the program encourages the involvement of a wide range of organizations that can contribute to projects, but they're also affected by projects. And these organizations need to come from different segments of society. And I've listed the target groups that we are looking for on the slide here. This is known as a quadruple helix. So you might find the reference to this quadruple helix in the NWE Programme document, which we highly encourage applicants to read before applying to our program. So because the program identifies specific target groups per priority and per specific objective. So while here I have listed the high-level groupings, if you look in this document that I referred to, you can actually see specific examples of types of organizations we are looking for each specific objective. And so private and public actors coming from government, public authorities, the research sector, SMEs and business support organizations, as well as sectoral associations, NGOs, lobby organizations and citizen groups are highly encouraged to join partnerships. Now, that being said, the quadruple helix principle, it is important, but it is not mandatory for projects to have all 4 partner types represented in each project. Projects should set up their partnerships in line with their needs. That means in line with the project objectives and the expected results. So there should be coherence between these two things. And another thing to consider is that it is also not necessary that all 4 types of partners have the same level of involvement in a given project. So you could have a situation where a project is led by 2 types of organizations, while the other 2 have more of a supporting role, a limited role. Maybe they're involved for a shorter period of time with a smaller budget for a very specific task. And furthermore, as Alexandre will explain later on, there's also the concept of associated organizations who are essentially observers. That's also a way to involve an additional type of target group in projects.
So we know which organizations can be partners in a project. Now the famous question about the countries which can take part in the program. Alexandre.
From a geographical point of view, there's 3 important things to keep in mind, which are also eligibility criteria. So this is really important and a real starting point, especially in step 1. We're going to need 3 partners, a minimum of 3 partners from 3 different countries. This is the minimum needed to compose a partnership, but obviously consortiums can go further. We often get the question, perhaps Peter has it on his computer already, which is what is the ideal size of a partnership? But our answer is always the same. We cannot give a number. There is no ideal size of a partnership. The ideal size is the one that corresponds to the needs of your project, the needs in relation to the objective that is set for the project. Just maybe one thing to keep in mind is that a very large partnership can become a little bit difficult to manage coordination-wise from an administrative financial point of view. Then the second point is that at least 2 of these partners must be from the Northwest Europe area. Mm-hmm. So that means Ireland, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, or the concerned parts of Germany and France. And then partners outside the NWE area, we had the question already, and I answered, yes, they can join if they are well justified, meaning if the competences that the partnership is looking for cannot be found within the Northwest Europe area. Then concerning the roles, thanks. they're the same as in the previous program, lead partner. We are still applying the lead partner principle, meaning that one partner has to act as the lead partner. He's going to be in cooperation with the other, particularly in charge of drafting the application form and submitting it. And he will later on, if the project is approved, be the main contact person for the JS and for the program bodies more generally. One important thing to keep in mind is that the lead partner must be an organization which is public or nonprofit. Then project partner, they're the ones which will contribute to the delivery of the projects. As Sarine just mentioned, one thing to keep in mind is that there's different levels of involvement which are possible, and partners, being a project partner does not mean you need to be involved in all the aspects of a work plan. The involvement can be on just one work package or with a limited scope of work, a limited budget, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, associate organizations. I was mentioning them also in relation to how the UK organizations can be involved. Associate organizations, previously called associate partners, they're entities which do not receive ERDF. They do not need to financially contribute to the project, but they can have an interest in the results, or they can be interesting for the project partnership to disseminate the information further. So it's always interesting to identify some organizations that can play this role too, especially with our focus on dissemination, rollout, et cetera, as was mentioned previously.
All right, so the key question of eligibility, and I am sure we have some reactions from the audience, Peter.
Indeed, we do, of course. So this one is going to directly relate to what you were just speaking about, Alexandre. And this is in the new Interreg Northwest Europe program. Can partners in projects have sub-partners and associated partners? So sub-partners being beneficiaries from the grant and associated partners without financing. So just maybe to
all right.
Elaborate
so clarify the difference maybe between associated partners and sub-partners, and which of these two can be involved in the new program?
Well, as was mentioned, so associated organizations, they can be involved. Sub-partners, they've been removed from the program in 2021, 2027, so it is not possible to be a sub-partner anymore. However, one thing which is important, as we both said, is that we have simplified a lot of processes and procedure in the way, especially projects and partners will have to do their reporting. So to that extent, with a limited involvement, with this simplification, the rationale which led us to have this category of sub-partner is maybe less necessary in this new program period, and that's what also led us to not keep this category.
All right, Peter, anything else?
Yes, I have one question that keeps coming again is, can consulting and management companies be part of the consortium? In addition, can consulting companies be in the lead when applying for funding?
All right, so the role of consultants and managing companies in a partnership. Who wants to take it?
I can take it. So it's very clearly stated in the program manual that consultants cannot be partners in NWE projects. They may have a role supporting the lead partner or any other partner within the partnership, provided that they abide by procurement rules and everything is in order in terms of how they were selected to provide this support as external experts to the project.
All right, that's an answer for you, Wanda, and everyone else. Read the program manual, it's all in there. Peter.
So just one last question, I guess, before we wrap this part up is, can we build projects with two priorities overlapping?
What do we say?
Can we? No, this is having, if I understand the question well, can the same project be applying in two different priorities? No, that's not possible. You have to correspond to one priority and within that priority, one specific objective.
And this has,
go ahead.
The specific priority that a project will contribute to must be chosen at the very beginning of a step 1 application form, and it remains valid throughout the entire application and implementation phase. Projects will be judged on their contribution to the specific objective, so to the territorial challenges identified, to the objectives that the program has set out to achieve and how the projects contribute to it. And one other thing to consider as applicants is that if you are unsure which priority to go to, think about your project and what it's trying to achieve, and try to see if what you're trying to achieve is addressing a specific challenge as identified for a specific priority and a specific objective of the program. So try to find the best fit for you and make sure you are very clear about this, because it's very important for us to know what projects are trying to achieve.
Alexandre, go ahead.
And if I just add, Valérie was mentioning that the contact points had helped her very much in drafting and in the development phase of her project. And again, if you have a hesitation between two priorities, between different SOs, one of the main places where you can get help is to get in touch with your contact points, who can really help you to find the right SO.
Yes, right. We will talk more about the role of contact points towards the end. And for more information on themes and everything, it's in the Interreg Northwest Europe program document. And we have also drafted some nice summary fact sheets for you to have information on that. Sarine, Alexandre, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And after the video, we will have a short quiz. We are halfway through our trip together. We hope that you have been enjoying the ride, but have you been paying attention? Let's find out now. I have Irma with me, and after 3 questions, she will tell you what is a good project. But first, Peter for the quiz.
Yes, so as Perrine was mentioning, we are going to do a short little quiz. It's going to be only 3 questions, and we will give you about 20 seconds or so to answer. Just to kind of see how awake you have been and to see how things have been going for you. So with that, it should show up on your screen in just a moment. And why don't we get going with the very first question. So the very first question that we have for you today is, which of these sentences does not characterize the Northwest Europe region? Does it have to do with us being a low CO2 emitting region, us having very high GDP? What do you think? And so time is up already, and congratulations to 44% of you that answered correctly. Northwest Europe is certainly not one of the lowest CO2 emitters in Europe, and that is why this is one of the major priorities of our program. We want to be really working on addressing that in the next few years. So let's move on to the next question. Which of these is not a priority in the 2021-2027 Northwest Europe program? Does it have to do with circular economy? Does it have to do with an inclusive society? Does it have to do with climate and environment, or better governance? What are we not addressing? And congratulations to 93% of you who got indeed the correct result. We are not looking at better governance in this program. At this point, again, we are really focusing on those questions of circular economy, inclusive society, and climate and environment in the next 7 years. Let's go to the last question. Is it mandatory to involve in projects partners from all 4 target groups? So let's see, is it mandatory? Is it only encouraged? Should we be looking for 10 target groups? Or no, it's not recommended. What do you think? And why don't we go to show the correct answer? 82% of you, I am happy to say, are correct. It is encouraged, and it must be in line with the project objectives and planned results, but it is not mandatory, but we encourage it. So thank you very much for the quiz.
So we have Larry, who is in the lead here. All right, but hey, Larry, you might want to pay some more attention because we have another quiz towards the end of the event. So stay with us, and you might win a prize. All right, thank you, Peter. So if you're still with us, it means that you are interested in what we have to offer, and you might want to know how to be a successful project. So our next stop is what makes a good project. And Irma, who is project officer at the Joint Secretariat of the Northwest Europe Programme, will detail this right now. Go ahead, Irma.
Thank you, Perrine. So I'm going to start with my presentation. And I'm going to explain you briefly what makes a good project. So we are having 9 characteristics, and I'm going to start with the first one, which is a good project clearly defines its needs and relevance to the NWE area. So what does it precisely mean? Well, actually, you have to explain why your project, why it is needed, actually. So you have to explain the challenges and also the opportunities that you would like addressed with your project. But also, it is very, very important to stress your project results. So what kind of change do you want to achieve at the end of your project? Then there is also a very important point that is related to the place-based approach. So put simply, you know that the Interreg Northwest Europe program puts an accent on transnational cooperation. So in these terms, it is very, very important to identify and describe the profile of territories where your project will intervene. So would it be in rural areas, would it be in urban areas, and so on and so forth. And the last point, which is also very important, is that your project should not be a standalone initiative. It should be embedded in an overall strategic framework. For instance, this strategic framework could be a European strategy. If you're active in social innovation or in social economy, you could maybe rely on the social economy action plan that has been put in place by the European Commission in 2021 or something similar. So let's go to point number 2, which is a good project contributes to program objectives. So I will not dive into this topic because, as already presented by my colleagues previously, Alexandre and Sarine, we're having 5 priorities, and we're having within these 5 priorities specific objectives. So at the beginning, when you're trying to set up your project, of course, you will have a project objective. And this project objective has, of course, to contribute to one of the specific objectives that have been previously mentioned. Of course, you have to keep in consideration all the challenges and opportunities that you would like to tackle with your project, and these have to fit in specific objective. Third point is that a good project has measurable results. So what does that mean? At the beginning, when you're setting up your project, you're defining your project outputs, you're defining your project results, and so on and so forth. While doing so, please try to be as clear as possible. Why? Because all these project outputs and project results have to be measurable afterwards. We have to be able to measure them, to measure your success after the project ends. So try to be as clear as possible. And of course, all this has to fit into the program indicator framework. So far this has been maybe a bit theoretical. So now we'll pass to a video that has been produced by one of our projects. So let's have a look together.
As you might know, worldwide we use tons of raw materials, and they are running out. But we're unaware of the fact that we waste a lot of it too, just by letting water flow out of our sinks and flushing our toilets. That water, for example, is full of toilet paper, which can be turned into a valuable circular resource. The Interreg WOW project wants to start a transition where we reuse raw materials in sewage to make valuable bioproducts. From the sewage, we can subtract PHA to make bioplastics that are biodegradable, which, for instance, could be used in the agricultural sector. Also, we're able to produce lipids to create biofuels, so we can move our cars and trucks in a cleaner way. The cellulose in our toilet paper can, for instance, be used to make biochar. This valuable resource can remove medicinal residues from our sewage. So, thanks to our circular approach, raw materials will be reused and no more money will be wasted. Are you inspired by using raw materials from sewage and like to know more about the Interreg WOW project? Please visit us.
5, 4, 3, 2.
I hope the video was interesting, and maybe just to give you a short example regarding this point. So let's say you are active in social innovation, and you are setting up a project, and just let's take a small example. At the end of your project, you want to have 100 NEETs employed. NEETs means people that are not employed, not in education, or not in training. So as said, at the end of your project, you aim that 100 NEETs are employed at the end of your project. You want them to be independent. So this, for instance, is something that could be measured. So at the end of your project, we will be able to measure your success if indeed these 100 people are employed. Now let's go to the fourth point. A good project embeds transnational cooperation at its core. As it has already been mentioned by my colleagues, transnational cooperation is at the core of all our projects. So an intrinsic need for transnational cooperation to achieve project results must be demonstrated. So in other words, you have to stress on this aspect. You have to explain the added value of your project within the cooperation with your partners. You have to say, okay, we are working on this project because this adds value to the Northwest European territories. And also it is very, very important that this approach, you have to compare it with the regional, with the national level, saying that, okay, we are doing this project on a transnational level because it adds value. So try always to compare it and to stress the importance of this added value. The fifth point is related to existing knowledge and to go beyond existing approaches. So what does it mean concretely? To be honest, we are not expecting from our projects to reinvent the wheel. I mean, let's be honest. What we expect from our project is to capitalize on existing knowledge, on existing works, on existing projects, and so on and so forth. This is the main objective. So what could it be? It is very important to stress that a good project is also innovative and ensures that identified challenges and opportunities are addressed with novel or new or adapted approaches, as it has been said previously. So to make it maybe short, a good project is aware of recent developments and results achieved in the thematic field concerned and builds on these in a meaningful manner. So maybe to give you an example, we had a project that was involved in, let's be spontaneous now and say that a project has been involved in social housing. And they have been very, very successful during their implementation, and they have achieved wonderful results, and so on and so forth. So with the next program, maybe the same project, same partners or another partners that have been inspired by this project could build up on the results that have been already present, but with a new approach, with something new, with new ideas, and so on and so forth. So let's go to the sixth point. And I know at this time you might be like looking like my friend on the PowerPoint on me and saying, oh my God, when will this end? But please stay strong. We are in the halftime, so just a few more points. So let's go. The sixth point is related to a strong partnership structure. So we are having 4 categories, actually. We are having government and public organizations. We are having industry and businesses, research academia, and civil society organizations. It is important to stress that not all groups that have been mentioned in this PowerPoint slide have to be involved in your project. Why? Because it depends on your project idea. It depends on your project output, the change you want to achieve with your project. So you can have, for instance, a project that is involved in smart lighting systems, setting up public lighting, smart public lighting. What does it mean? It means to change the level of lighting in a city, installing LED lights. So this partnership could, for instance, be composed of the cities that are involved that would like to install these types of lights in their cities, well, in their streets, to be more precise. This partnership could be also composed by research institutes and universities who will eventually do the monitoring and the environmental impact of these lights. This partnership could also be composed and should be composed by let's say, enterprises that are producing this new technology, sensors to measure it, and so on and so forth. And of course, civil society organizations, meaning people that are living in those cities in order to give their opinion about this equipment and how it will influence their everyday life. This would be, for instance, one example regarding a strong partnership. And of course, all partners should be involved meaningfully in every project. Some partners will have, it's a bigger role. Some partners will have a smaller role, but all have to be involved in the project implementation. And of course, when you're setting up your project partnership, you have to keep in consideration and keep in mind partners that are having the necessary skills, that are having the necessary expertise in the given field, and so on and so forth. Number 7. A good project makes a lasting change and plans its long-term effects. So what does it mean precisely? In one word, I would summarize it as looking into the future. So when your project ends, it's not the end of the world, right? So you have to continue, you have to look further. So you have to know that once you're starting to set up your project, once you start up setting up your project, defining your project outputs, your project results, you have to look further and see what can be achieved after. So what we expect from our project is that they implement tangible strategies, solutions, and concepts. And then afterwards, projects should plan for delivering a specific transnational product, services, process, solutions, strategies, and so on and so forth. So applicants must therefore be clear on what change they want to achieve with their project, who will they target, and who will benefit from these activities. And of course, compared maybe to the previous program where we had a long-term work package, in this program, all these long-term activities should be embedded in the work plan. So we will not have a specific work package dedicated to long-term, but you have to implement these activities within the existing or the foreseen work packages. So as I mentioned previously, the example with smart lighting and the LED lights that have been installed in several cities. So after the project ends, the municipalities that have been involved in the project implementation, they will for sure continue their collaboration with the enterprises that have been also part of the project in order to continue the collaboration, in order to ensure that the technical support will be there, and so on and so forth. Number 8, a good project communicates its project activities and results. What does it mean? Well, in short, for me, it means to be allowed. To me, to be allowed means to communicate about your project, to set up a communication strategy where you will define your activities related to your communication. It would be also nice to have a communication manager who would take over this responsibility. And of course, when you are doing so, it is expected from you to respect some program rules. So when I say being loud, it means to talk about your project, to present your project, to be, for instance, very active on social medias, to update regularly your web page. And what is very, very interesting for me, and I love to hear from my projects, is when there is a national conference or a European conference or something similar, they are not only attending it, but they are also presenting the project. So they are making it visible, they are talking about it, and it also ensures long-term effects. So just be loud and talk about your project, present it. And the last slide, finally, right? So the last one is regarding risk management. Okay, the last one is a bit serious, but as said, it's the last one. So a good project manages risks. So before maybe diving into this topic, I'm going to tell you a short story. So I live in France, in Lille. And before I leave my apartment to go to my work, I usually check the weather. because sometimes it might be sunny, in the afternoon it might be cloudy and then rainy and so on and so forth. So in any case, I check the weather forecast. And then I put a small umbrella in my bag, because sometimes when they are announce cloudy weather, it might be rainy. So I just put a small umbrella in my bag and then I go to work. And then in the afternoon, well, it starts raining, but I take out my umbrella and like a lady, I walk home. So what we expect from projects is to have a plan B when you're implementing your project. What does it mean? It means to be ready for the storm. It means to be ready for the rain. So you have to identify 3 risks at the beginning of your project that might influence, let's say it like this, the implementation process of your project. So you have to identify them in the beginning in order to be able to manage them throughout the process of the implementation of your project. So that's why I'm telling you the story about the umbrella. Once the storm arrives, once you have those risks that appear during the implementation process of your project, you will have this umbrella to protect you, protect yourself. You will be able to respond to these risks. And these risks might be, I don't know, a partner dropout, a partner who doesn't want to continue with the project and just drops out. So you have to be ready to either find a new partner or to talk with your partnership and take over the activities and the budget and then continue with the implementation of your project. Or it might be also that, let's think, oh yeah, you're maybe working with equipment and you're waiting the delivery of a equipment which is very important for the implementation of your project. But suddenly your provider calls you and says, okay, we will have a delay of 6 months. So what are you going to do? Maybe you could have foreseen to do other activities in the meantime or something similar. So just be prepared and have your umbrella in your bag ready. So at this point, I will finalize my presentation and I will show you a very funny picture, which is my friend Nora, because Nora is very, very happy that I'm at the end of my presentation, and I'm happy as well. And to be honest, I would like to continue, but my colleague Perrine, she's giving me like this special look saying that I really have to finalize here, otherwise I will get in trouble afterwards. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Irma, for a very illustrative presentation. We have a bit of time for questions. What is the reaction, Peter?
Okay, so why don't we start with one that seems to be on a lot of people's mind again, so it's not specifically related to what we just discussed, but again, on everybody's mind, about finding partners. Will we have, for example, this one's coming from somebody, will we have specific online networking events, for example, online, where participants can present their project ideas and find partners? There used to be these types of events, and I think with the other periods, and this is what the person mentioned, but what about now?
All right, what about networking events? As you all know, we are in this COVID period, hopefully towards the end, but this has changed a little bit. Irma, do you want to say a few words about networking possibilities?
What I can say so far is that we are having an online community created on our official webpage, where applicants and those who are interested to share their ideas, to find partners and so on and so forth, can register and share their ideas and potentially find some new partners. Regarding online events, maybe we might organize them in the future. But I've been informed that there will be a physical meeting in May in Belgium, where we will present our program, and their participants could come and attend the meeting. But further events will be, of course, will be published on our official webpage, and then stay tuned and follow us there.
Absolutely, Irma. We are going to give some more detail about networking opportunities, be there event, online. Vinicius and Alexandre will be there in a few minutes, so stay with us until the end, and possible physical networking opportunities with events in different regions of Northwest Europe. Peter, anything else?
Yes, so in terms of what makes a good project, can you please explain what makes a project genuinely transnational? So maybe illustrating from examples from previous projects, but what do we mean when we talk about a transnational project?
What does transnational mean, Irma, really?
Well,
for us concretely.
Well, transnational means that you have, let's illustrate it, that you're having like a number of partners coming from different regions from Northwest Europe, and they're tackling together common challenges, opportunities, and they're having a common understanding of what kind of project results they want to achieve. So in short, this I would define as transnational cooperation, working together in order to achieve a common goal.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Irma. I think we are going to stop here for questions, but thanks again. And the PowerPoint is going to be available on the website after this event. All right. So we've highlighted the characteristic of the ideal projects, the 9 of them, if you've paid attention. But now you will need to know what to do to submit your project if you have one in the pipeline. So our next stop is, how does the application process work? And for this part, I'm joined via Zoom by Elizabeth and Matthias. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, Perry.
Elizabeth, you are one of the 2 contact points for Germany, and Matthias, you are our contact point for Flanders in Belgium. Welcome again, and my first question is to you, Matthias. How does the application process work? What can you tell us about this?
Thank you, Perrine. Well, I think everything starts with a good project idea. And if you think you have a good idea, then the first thing you should do is not putting it on paper in a very extensive way. And it's also not launching it Northwest European-wide for a partner search. The first thing you should do is go see your contact points. I think with a quick online or physical intake meeting, we will be able to tell you if your idea fits with the program and also help you narrow it down to something that can fit one of the 9 specific objectives we have now. It's also a good moment for us to assess how much advice you will need for your idea. We'll ask you questions like, do you have your partnership almost complete, or should we help there? Which further support do you need? And so on, I think. Now, when you have taken this first hurdle and your contact point has become your new best friend, then you start drafting a project idea and you start looking for partners that you didn't have on board yet. And one way to do this is by drafting an idea or by publishing it on our brand new applicant community you've heard of today. It's a nice new online platform that gives a good overview of project ideas that are looking for partners. And if you don't have an idea yourself, you can just leave your business card there you can be found by potentially interested people. We recommend you to work through this applicant community, but of course, some people prefer to keep it more confidential, and sometimes there's also good reasons for it. So as contact points, we still dispose of a one-page Word template that you then can use for your project idea to spread it. At the beginning stage of project idea, then the CP network can also help you spread your idea, help you structure your text if needed, and answer any other question you have. After you have done this, then your formal application process with 2 steps you've heard of can begin. And when it becomes formal, then there's an online tool to be used, another one, the GEMS. It will be an online tool which you can use to fill in your project application. But rest assured, we also still have a Word version template that you can use, and that is more practical to circulate among your partnership. In step 1, 2 things are very crucial. First of all, you're going to have to sort out who's going to lead your project. And you need to tell it to your contact point. Why? That's because we will make sure that your project proposal is then guided by the contact point of your lead partner's region. And as Valérie already said, it's not always an easy job being a lead partner. So sometimes it can help when you can talk to a CP in your own language or even in your own dialect. And sometimes CPs can also assist to a partner meeting or help you structure your idea into an actual project application. It's also crucial now in step 1, to fabricate a good storyline for your project. And the crucial big question that you should ask is not what do I want to do, it's why do I want to do my project? So state the needs and justify the common problems that you want to tackle. Argument on questions like how big is your problem, how many stakeholders face your problem, in which specific sectors is your need situated, and so on. And the second big question you need to ask yourself is, how do I want to tackle the problem? Do you need more demonstration pilots to show your stakeholders the right solution? Or is the problem more like policy work and action plans that are currently missing? Or is the public simply not aware enough of your problem? And do you need to tackle that? Or maybe it's all of that together, and that's fine too. But you need to ask yourself this question. Also ask yourself, how are you going to work in a transnational way with the partners? Is there some co-creation approach in your methods that you use? Also, what are the actual objectives and results that you wish to achieve? What is new in your project that you want to do regarding things that already have been done? And also give us one number, one budget for your whole project as a whole. These questions will also come back into your application form, and the CPs can help you again, of course. Once you've answered all these questions, then just hit the submission button and wait for the program's feedback, because your step 1 will be concluded. Then the program will take a few months to shine their light on what you have written down, and their light will come back to you in a color. Either it's red, and unfortunately that means that you can't go to step 2, or it will be green, which means full speed ahead for step 2. In step 2, even if you get a green light, there will of course be requirements and recommendations, because nobody is perfect after all. And we will help you to understand the remarks in a meeting with the evaluating JS officers and your lead contact point, which hopefully you know very well by then. After that, keep in touch with your contact point also. When writing your step 2 proposal, he or she can give you feedback on your writings, on your structure, and so on. And also just a fresh pair of eyes can help you get rid of tunnel vision, which some project partners tend to develop. So now that you have made it to step 2, you can finally start explaining no longer why and how, but what you are going to do in your project, on top of the why and how questions you've already answered in step 1. So in practice, this means translate your objectives into work packages with a series of activities in each work package. And activities must also lead to something concrete and tangible, which are things like deliverables and outputs. You should also add a credible timeline to your story in step 2. You should make a detailed project budget per project partner now. So in a step 2, it's really the moment to get the people on your project staff that know how to do the counting and who also know where they can find match funding. So there's quite a lot of structure to follow here as well. And when you're the lead partner and you're not sure of some formulations or answers you've given to the feedback, who are you going to call again? Your contact point, of course. Finally, when you hit the submission button again, you're at the end, then there's still one thing to do. You cross your fingers for a good assessment and an approval by the program's monitoring committee. And rest assured that the contact points will cross their fingers with you too.
All right. Thank you very much, Matthias. You've hinted at it a little bit, but I am going to ask Elizabeth, how will applications be assessed? Elizabeth.
Yes. Hi, Karine, first of all. Good question. The assessments. This is the thing you're waiting for to enter step 2 or to start your project, depending on where we are in the process. So it's a step 2 application process. So it's also 2 assessments, one for step 1, one for step 2. We are going to look at step 1 first, because this is where we are, and I think this is the most important. You put a lot of work in your application form. It takes a lot of time, and you're talking to your partners, you're talking to the CPs, to everyone, you're writing it down. So please make sure, be eligible. It's the very first thing, meaning apply on GEMS, push the submit button. If you're not putting a submit button, you're wrong. Okay, so use GEMS. Complete all sections in English. We're talking English today, it's the program language. But we're also asking for summaries in all 4 program languages. So in Dutch, in German, in French as well. That's that only short part. We talked about the lead partner already. So the lead partner has a crucial role and has to be, he has to follow certain rules as well. So the lead partner must come from within the NWE area. We heard before there are partners that can be from outside the Northwest Europe area, but the lead partner, please be from inside the program area. And it also has to be a public non-for-profit partner. And that's it. What we heard before, 3 partners from 3 different countries as well. So if you have all of those, and one important thing, choose one specific objective. Be focused on one topic. And then if you have all of this, you're eligible. And if you're eligible, then you go to the next step. Your project will be assessed on its quality. So we're looking for good quality. That's a standardized procedure. And I want to tell you one thing. We ask questions for a reason. You have to answer these questions in your application form because we want to find out if your project really fits what we are looking for in our program, because we have our challenges in Northwest Europe and we want our projects to help us address these challenges. So we have in step 1 4 criteria, and 3 are on relevance, where we check if this project is relevant for us. And what we heard before, the need and justification for the project must be there and must make sense to us. Your project has to contribute to our objective, and it has to have an added value, meaning going beyond what's already there in the field, but building on existing practices, meaning from projects you have been doing before, and that you can bring into a new project and help to achieve something in Northwest Europe. And what we heard before, the partnership is very important, and we have a look on it as well. So meaning, does your partnership structure, do you have the right partners on board to really do what you're planning to do? Are you able to implement your project and achieve the results you're promising us? And this is more or less what we're looking at. So really what we're asking is what we want to know. And it's the easy answer to the assessment. And what Matthias already said, if you are rejected, you get reasons why you are rejected, what we didn't find in your application. And the good thing is you can reapply if you take into account these things that the monitoring committee is giving you. They tell you why it didn't work out for you at this point. So work on it, take it into account, talk to your contact points, and you can resubmit or reapply the application. It's a bit easier. If you haven't been eligible, then make sure you're eligible and you can come back to step 1. But that's more or less how the assessment process works. And then, step 2, again.
All right. Then you mentioned step 1, step 2. We are programmed in 2-step for application. Matthias, what is the timeline for Core 1? And we have a nice image for that.
Thank you, Perrine. Yes, dates and deadlines. As most of you already have seen, the first call of this new programming period opened last week on the 22nd of March. And you have your time for your step 1 proposal until the 15th of June 2022. So this means that then over summer, the program will decide on which applications get a green or a red light. And by the half September, the 15th of September, successful applicants will be invited to work on a step 2 application. To make it clear again, without a green light, you can't go to a step 2, so a green light is really necessary. The deadline for your step 2 proposal then is in December 2022, so the 15th of December. And this means that you will get a decision in February 2023 on your project and whether you can start with it or not. So that's the moment for the final decision. You can plan to start your project and starting from this moment on. Perhaps for our Irish friends, some remarks on the deadlines. It's when you have a deadline, it's 12 o'clock at noon, but it's continental time. So for the Irish people, it's 11 a.m. If you did manage to write down all the deadlines on the image, and which I explained, no worries. There's still the terms of reference, which are published at each call, and in which all these dates and deadlines figure too. And also one final remark, if you are not ready yet for this first project call, then there's a second call already coming up in November 2022. So you have your new chance there. So don't hasten things if you think you're not going to manage it. But of course, you're welcome to try already to come with something in call 1, and then you can get a feedback already in September to see whether you can continue or need to go to the second call. Thank you.
All right, Matthias, thank you. So we're 2.5 months away from the deadline for step 1. Elizabeth, do you have some do's and don'ts for our participants today? And then Matthias can add a few words.
Yeah. So do is definitely take all the resources Northwest Europe is providing to you. Check the program manual for the quality assessment criteria, for example, we just talked about. If you don't know if you're eligible and everything, it's all there in the program manual. And we have fact sheets online. We have CPs talking to you all the time. You know, there's a lot of things. Use them all. Read carefully. Also, you know, start as early as possible. The time is now. It takes some time to build up a trustful partnership and to develop a joint vision and a joint project. So please start now. And I think it has been said before, but we are your friends. So please talk to us. And friends are sometimes also, you know, telling the truth. And if we tell you, well, it's not what it could be, you know, then it's not mean. We're just trying to help and, you know, working on it together. So this is do's, more or less, a lot of do's.
All right, good. Matthias, do you want to add anything to help our audience today?
I think I might give 3 tips as well. My first tip comes from an educational principle everybody has heard when growing up, or even now still. Please mind your language. It means that you need to remain polite, but it also means that you are submitting your project proposal to people that are not experts in your domain. So the program covers too many topics to have experts on everything. Try to exchange your own sectoral slang for the Interreg jargon, and Contact Point can help you to do it and get you acquainted with the Interreg language you need. Secondly, focus is the magic word here. Have a clear idea of the change the project wants to make, and avoid words like holistic approaches, integrated approaches, or things like one size fits all. So hocus pocus, focus. And thirdly, think global and act local. So don't just think about your local investment pilot or tool that you are going to develop. Think about why you need to do it in a transnational program with a big partnership. And when describing how you're going to work on your local pilots, make sure you demonstrate how you're going to cooperate with partners to add a transitional European dimension to your local investments. So that's the local part in it.
All right. Thank you, Matthias and Elizabeth. Peter, any reactions from our audience?
Yes, of course. I'm going to start off with one that's directly related to what Matthias was just mentioning, related to who is going to be evaluating. The question literally is, who is actually going to evaluate and rank the proposals? How does that happen?
How does the evaluation happen? Matthias, Elizabeth?
Well, it's an assessment that will be done by the JS officers, of course, and then the member states make their own assessments too. And all these things are put together in a monitoring committee that then decides. So it's consensus decision making, and there are several opinions coming together. So it's the JS and the member states both that make the assessments.
All right, thank you very much. Peter, what are the other reactions or questions?
So there have been a lot of questions that have been coming in about specific project ideas, specific things related to what can I and can I not do. And I think our contact points are very well positioned to say that basically these are the people that you should be speaking to. We're not going to take all of these questions right now related to whether or not this idea would be a good idea, good fit for a project. We're just going to recommend that you get in touch with your contact points and start discussing your project development ideas later on after this event. On that note, though, there is another question that is coming up in terms of project development related to the number of pilots. So with that, I'm wondering if Matthias and Elizabeth could answer the question about how many pilots should a project develop? Is one enough for the whole partnership, or should each partner develop a pilot in their own region?
All right, Elizabeth, do you want to take it? And if there's anything to add, Matthias, you can go ahead after.
I mean, the question is, what do you need the pilot for? That's the question you need to ask yourself, and that answers it in the end. So if you need pilots in different sizes or scales because you need to, want to achieve a blueprint for certain solution, then try to have different pilots in different places. One thing that has a transnational value, then, one pilot is enough. It depends on what you want to achieve and why do you need the pilot for, and that is always something you need to describe and explain.
Matthias, anything else?
Yeah, I think you also need to add the stakeholders' perspective. And if you have a pilot, who can you start with it? And where are the stakeholders located? If you're going to work for one member state alone, it's not a very transnational thing to do. So link your pilots to your target groups and how many people you are going to reach with your pilots. And if then it's necessary that you have multiple pilots, that's the better story for your project. If you can have few pilots but reach a lot of people in other member states and you're getting them across borders, why not? But it's really a bit up to the specific case and the question.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Matthias, for joining us today and for all these tips to our participants. All right, after the video, I will have Alexandre and Vinicius tell you how to get started. All right, everybody, we have almost reached our destination, and the last stop is how to get started. I am here again with Alexandre and Vinicius, who is also communication officer at the JS. Thank you for joining. Alexandre, a question. If I'm an applicant, where do I go for help? I think we've said a few things already, but it's worth mentioning again.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning again. The CPs have been mentioned quite often today. And indeed, the first thing to get started is to get in touch with your contact point. We have tried, it's also been said, to simplify the program, the application process, even our procedures, as much as we could in this programming period. But still, we realize that it's a lot of information to take in. Sometimes it's a complicated process, developing an application form. So our member states have chosen to have this network of contact points throughout the Northwest Europe regions. There's at least one per country, often more, as you can see in this slide. And they're really here for you. And so we really invite you to use them, if I may, to optimize and maximize your chances to have a successful application. And one thing I want to say about contact points, I think it was mentioned also, they're not just here to give out information on the program or to communicate and promote the program. They're also here to help you really in the development of your application form, both in step 1 and in step 2. And then a second thing on how to get help, how to get started, it's this brand new online platform that we have created. We often get this question, where can I go to build my partnership? Where can I find partners? And that's why we have created this tool specifically for applicants, whether they're project partners or lead partners, to find potential organizations to join their partnership, to join their consortium, or for individual organizations to find a project that they could potentially join.
All right, Vinicius, a few words on the community?
Yeah, thanks, Behine and Alexandre. So as was said many times today, Interreg Northwest Europe is all about cooperation in many levels. And these starts already at this application phase where like a lot of networking and exchanges should already be happening. So partners are able to develop strong application and partnerships. So finding partners and from a specific region or within a specific expertise or simply a good project idea in the pipeline are all key elements, as we've seen today, that all applicants should be considering right now. And in this programming period, so the period of 2021-2027, we are trying really to increase the support we give to applicants. And with that in mind, we developed this brand new Northwest Europe online community, a brand new platform that I would like to introduce to you now. We are proud to introduce you to the new online community for the Interreg Northwest Europe program. This secure platform was carefully developed for users from NWE regions to support you in the application phase of the program. The community has easy and user-friendly navigation. Once connected, users have access to three main features, namely Find Partners, Browse Ideas, and Messages. First, in the Find Partner section, you'll be able to navigate through our directory of organizations and individuals who are registered to our community. This is interesting if you are looking for partners to build your project partnership, to join a project idea, or just to network. You can tailor your search to your specific needs by using the filtering options. This will enable you to focus on particular program priorities and specific objectives, or a precise expertise. You can also filter per type of stakeholder or per country. Just keep in mind that the filters work with levels, so you should first choose the priorities and then move to the selection of specific objectives and subsequently to the more detailed search options. Second, many organizations already have a project idea that they are working on. Perhaps they are just lacking your specific expertise for their partnership to fly. These project ideas are published on the Browse Ideas section, which can also be filtered to narrow down your search results. Submit your own project idea, as it will give your organization more visibility. Finally, there can be no community without actual exchanges. After you found the organizations or ideas that you're looking for, you can directly contact the involved stakeholders using the Messages section. This works as a regular online chat, and you can easily exchange messages in a secure way. When you write to someone using the chat, they will receive a notification email in their mailbox. This way, you can rest assured that your message will be seen. So what are you waiting for? If you're not already registered, open a new tab and connect to community.nweurope.eu to create your profile and start exchanging with your new potential partners. Click on Sign Up on the top right of the homepage and fill in your personal details as completely as possible. Raise your visibility by creating also your organization profile, or select it if your organization is already in our system. Then click on Submit and you're in. Welcome to the Northwest Europe online community.
All right, so we have seen the numerous features the community offers, but Alexandre, we have some other documents available too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Since the opening of the call on 22nd of March, the major reference documents to prepare your application form are available. That's the draft Interreg program, first of all, but also the program manual and a draft version of the application form in Word version, so partners can work on it outside of GEMS and exchange it, send it by email. It's an easy tool to use. One thing I also want to highlight is, because these documents are quite long, our Interreg program in particular, we have prepared some fact sheets to summarize each one of the specific objectives. What is the challenge? What is the objective? What activities we're expecting? What results we're expecting? And the target audiences for each one of these SOs. So that can be a really useful tool, a quick summary to immediately be able to identify, does my project idea fit with what is expected by the program?
All right. Peter, any reactions?
There are indeed some reactions. So we're really getting a lot of questions about, especially the first call. So what are the topics for the call? Are they already published, or are the same, or even going into call 2? What are the topics that we're going to be addressing?
Topics for call 1. What do we have to say? Alexandre, maybe?
Well, it's what we call a regular call, meaning that all the priorities and all the specific objectives are open for this call. We are aiming to have, that's what is foreseen at this stage, one regular call every 8 to 10 months on average. So the second call should be launched towards the end of this year. But yeah, that is the rhythm. So all the priorities that we were presenting earlier will be open, and applicants can apply on these.
And Anna is also asking if the topics for the second call will be different from the first call. Do we know yet or not?
I cannot confirm this for sure at this stage, but as said, what is foreseen is to have a regular call every 8 to 10 months. So the second call should be indeed open to, similarly to this call, one should be open to all priorities and specific objectives.
To be confirmed towards the end of the year. Peter, anything else?
There are indeed quite a few more other questions that have been coming up. I want to go to one that's related specifically to project development. So Pierre is asking about measurable results. This question specifically relates to circular economy, but I think it goes to the other priorities as well. So when you're saying measurable results when it comes to circular economy, or for example, as well, inclusive society and innovation, the human factor is essential. Do you accept qualitative approaches?
All right, so what can we say about qualitative approaches, maybe as opposed to quantitative? Do they both go together, Alexandre?
Well, I mean, basically when we say measurable, everything can potentially be measurable. So both quantitative, obviously, but also qualitative things can be measurable, and it can apply to potentially any domain. So yes, if that is the question, I cannot read it from here, but yes, qualitative data can be considered as measurable.
Yeah, so we can accept them.
Yeah.
Right, Peter, maybe one last question before we have to close.
Okay, so if I have to choose probably the one last question, I think I'm going to go for one that is going to combine something related to finances. So there's one person that's asking about what the overall budget of a project is to be eligible. And then there's also another one about what financial information needs to be provided at step 1 and how far is it binding for step 2. So can you talk a little bit more about just developing a budget maybe for this call?
So in step 1, we're going to be asking for an indicative budget. So there's really not much that we're asking. The finance will mostly be for step 2. We're going to be asking for an overall budget, the RDF, and we ask for an indicative estimate of the budget which would be dedicated to investments. That's it for step 1. And what was the first part of the question, sorry?
The overall budget of a project to be eligible. Yeah. Is there a minimum?
No, there is no, that is not an eligibility criteria, the budget. It's often a question that we get, once again, what's the average budget or what budget we should have. There again, I mean, as was said, for the average partnership or for the average duration of a project, it really depends on what objective you set for your project, and build the budget depending on that. Don't try to fit to an average or to something which would not naturally come with what you're aiming for with your budget.
All right.
Your project. So.
Thank you very much, Alexandre and Vinicius. We have come to the end of our journey, but before we finish, we have 3 final questions and a winner. Peter, that's the quiz for you.
Yes, so we have one final quiz, 3 last questions. With this one, please keep in mind, there is a prize at the end, so please do your best, and we will see later on who will be the recipient of this prize. So why don't we go ahead and get the quiz started again, 20 seconds per response. Here we go. First question, how many potential risks should a project describe in its application form? Should it be 4? Should it be 2? Should it be 3? Should it be only 1? What do you think? Okay, why don't we go in for the results? And 79% of you have got the right answer, that there should be 3 described in the application form. So please make sure that when you are describing the major risks involved in your project, pick the top 3. Why don't we move on to the second question now. Where can you check if your application meets the step 1 eligibility criteria? Can you go to the program manual? Can you go to the fact sheets? Can you go to the terms of reference for call 1? Or should you go to the Northwest Europe online community? What do you think? All right, and the correct answer, this one, was chosen by 68% of you. Very well done. You should go to the program manual for this information. Always go to the program manual. It is your friend. It's quite a detailed document, and there's plenty of information there. Let's go to our final question. the Northwest Europe online community allows me to, there are multiple answers possible for this one. See projects, ideas in the pipeline and exchange with potential partners, access an overview of the Northwest Europe stakeholders, get in touch with the potential new partners, or order a cheeseburger. Why not? And the correct answer are A, B, and C. So sorry, you can't order a cheeseburger from the Northwest Europe online community, but you can do all of these other things. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at the leaderboard.
So we do have a winner, and I think the name is Julien. I cannot read the surname, but hey, Julien, we have some waffles from Lille to send to you. So please be so kind as to send your address to Peter, and you can find Peter's email address in the FAQ section of Slido. And of course, the confetti is for Julien. All right. If you want more information about Core1, we have some national and regional events coming up in all of Northwest Europe, in your country, in your region throughout the spring, and there will be a list right at the end for you to check. I think you know by now, but you really should sign up to the Northwest Europe community if you haven't done so yet. And if you want to stay connected with our program, you can check our social media channels and also sign up for updates on nweurope.eu. The PowerPoints, the recording of this event, if you missed a part or if you were a little distracted, it's okay. You can see all of that. And it's going to be on our website, along with a brand new FAQ section after this event, where we are going to try and answer as many questions as possible, and you'll find all of the answers there. All right, just one word to say thank you to Peter.
Thank you, Perrine.
And thank you to all of us for joining us. We hope you had a nice trip with us, a nice afternoon, and we hope you choose destination Northwest Europe.